We need more time. Y'all ready to roll on this, huh? Okay. All right. Well, let's look at this. We're looking for the top 3 or 4 keys that relate, and I'm looking for somebody who didn't talk last week, who would like to. If you didn't, not that you won't be able to talk this week, you talked last week, but if you didn't give an answer last week, and you're first up this week. So, and if nobody wants to talk who didn't talk last week, and people who talked last week can talk. Hopefully you're confused by now. But anyway, if you didn't talk last week and you want to give it a shot, raise your hand. Who would like to give this a shot? All right, Sister Nedra and Sister Renee and my sister back here.
I hope I'm doing this correctly. I'm not sure because I wasn't here last week. But I'm assuming I'm supposed to select one of the 7 keys that would fit the category for this particular scenario.
Yes.
I think the number one, the one that I chose to be number 1, and 3 of them were like a tie. But
I got you.
I chose position. Because it's God's way to give us proper order, and the position must be respected by all of us. With no respect, the authority leads to anarchy. And in the case of this particular story, the husband, the wife lost respect for her husband, and therefore there was chaos in the home. The children were, they were also privy to this, and the brother was losing his position because of his actions.
I think that's excellent. Before you get on to the rest of them, you said there were 3 that kind of were all close. What were the other 2 that you feel were very close?
Partnership and perfect love.
Yes.
Okay. How many of you all had position down there? How about? Huh? Who had, all right, so all of those hands said that you had position. Who had it as your number 1? Okay. And then what was your number 2?
Perfect love. No, proper, partnership.
Okay. Who had partnership in their top 3 or 4? All right, who had partnership as number 2? Okay, and your third one was?
Perfect love.
Perfect love. Anybody have perfect love?
Number 1.
Okay, who had perfect love as number 1? Okay, just curious. Okay, tell me, so you started out with position.
You can't have perfect love unless you have
well,
proper
hold on,
position.
before we, oh, I got you.
I'm
All
just
right.
trying to give you my scenario.
There's a lot of interconnection, isn't it? Which is good. All right, let me ask you this. Go ahead, make your statement. You said you can't have, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you can't have perfect love until you have the proper support from position. Nor can you have prohibition because you don't have the faith or the belief that you'll be protected. So that is one reason why I selected position as my number one.
Now, it's interesting, because did you notice what she just said? Did y'all notice that? Who picked up on it? What did she say just then?
She said you can't be protected. In other words, none of these things will actually manifest in her mind without there being some type of
Where's my
position in order first.
microphone, please? And some of the brothers will help us out with the microphone. Go ahead. Thank you, brother.
What I got out of it was that in her mind, in order for her to see perfect love and to see prohibition, all those things will line up based on the purpose being first, because then she's going to have respect for what's going on. Where if she's loving God, she's got to have the perfect love, and she's got to have the prohibition for his safety, because right now he sounds selfish. So he needs to be protected when he's out there in clubbing every night. So she has to have some protection prayer in there for him.
Now, here's what I'm trying to
When
see.
you have anarchy too and confusion,
Right.
it's
Yours is, it's not, this is not about it being a wrong answer.
Right.
Your answer is,
Everybody's got-
your answers, you know, these are all relative. And the first thing that you had was position. And I think it's definitely, you know, in the top three. But what I was trying to point out was, you were talking about, and I told you they're interwoven, but you got to go through them all in your mind. You were talking about position, but you started also mentioning some of the tenets of prohibition.
yeah.
Did y'all pick up on that?
It was a tie.
But her top three were position, partnership, and perfect love. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying that as the more she talked, you heard how prohibition snuck in there, right?
Absolutely.
And prohibition is the one that deals with that protection.
Absolutely.
How many of you all, give me one second, how many of you all had prohibition as a top topic? Okay, all right. Brother Cooper, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, Pastor, I had prohibition number one. And the reason I had it number one is because you do marriage counseling prior to marriage. In marriage counseling, you talk about the do's and the don'ts that an individual could do when they're in a marriage with one another. Going out and clubbing with the fellas every week would probably be something that you would tell the guy, you know, I know you might do this on a weekly basis, but now that you're getting married, that might be something that you might not want to consider doing on a weekly basis any longer. So my point is, that's information that you get prior to even getting married. So I put prohibition as number one because there are certain things that change in a relationship when two people get married.
Who else had prohibition as number one?
I had prohibition.
You had it as number one? You had it as number one? Anybody else? You had it as number one? I had it as number one. But that's not saying that it's, you know, I'm just saying, you gotta hear me. That's not saying that you're wrong. We're just going through reasoning. Because they're very interconnected, but you can see the ones that are very important. In fact, my number two was position. My number two was position. But let's go back a minute. You had position. Now here's what I want to ask you, Sister Nedra. And obviously, I think the second thing you had to come up with was what was your reasoning. And you weren't here last week, but you did a good job of filling that in. And the reasoning is, if position is God's way to give us power and order, then obviously the house is out of order. Stuff is out of order, and his authority is undermined. That's why she's treating him the way that she is, because, hey, his authority or respect for his authority is a joke, and the house is out of order, which deals with her and the children. And so I thought you did a good job in not only that key, but that reasoning, and now, let's see if you can get the triple play. What would be the action that would flow out of that kingdom key? Since we know that position is a key that governs this thing, we know why, because the marriage is out of order, the house is out of order, the respect is out of order. Everything she's saying, I think, is right. Would y'all agree?
Yes.
Okay, so then, what's the action that flows out of that? What should he or she do? Because remember, what should
You know,
he?
because they had the car accident, he had the car accident, and after the car accident, they should probably seek, pastoral counseling.
Okay, so she says,
Words.
number one action, she said, they need some pastoral counseling or marriage counseling. Who would agree with that? Okay, so that's an action. That's a suggested action that flows out of that, and I think that's right. And
They would need to, have like dates together where they do things together, do things as a family to instill the confidence into the children as well, because they're feeling, I'm sure, some type of disconnection in the family. And I think they just need to stay close to the word at that particular time.
Okay.
He definitely shouldn't be going to the club.
Okay, so let's review this. So number one, she said, because the actions where the rubber meets the road, there are specific remedies, right? I said actions, but we can also say prescriptions,
Yes.
or remedies, and solutions. The first one was counsel with the pastor. Now, that's a specific remedy or solution, and it's not something that you can just take for granted. Because let's face it, a lot of times issues come up in a relationship, particularly a marital relationship, and the woman will say, we need to go talk to the pastor, and the man will say, what? I ain't talking to nobody. Why I got to tell him all my business? You understand? Can I get an amen? So that's not a given. All right? It's not a given. Yes, Reverend.
That's why I had planning first, because I think, that's why I put planning first, because I believe that he has to do an introspection of himself and get with God, and then come back and talk about what needs to happen.
I think in this case,
Then, with his wife.
he ain't
And
trying.
then if that doesn't work, then you come to the pastor. But you have to try to go to God, and you have to be together and go to God together
All right.
first.
Who-
Because you
Can anybody